Hours passed, and the residents of Bloodstone Manor found themselves preoccupied with the necessities and frivolities of life. Dining, unpacking Lydia's boxes, seeing Eve's purchases, Emmett reading aloud a few phrases of his book and discussing them with Mortimer, and Tony even found time to do some repairs to sections of the manor that had been unused for quite some time. Eventually, though, the skies darkened and a storm blew in. Lightning flashed and thunder clashed, and the power blew out. Unable to do anything else, the tenants, save Emmett, pulled together and decided what to do until the power came back. Lydia had brought a portable DVD player along with her, and so they debated for a while, then decided on a video. Realizing that Emmett was still alone in his room, Eve suggested that they at least invite him to watch with them. Tony walked along the upper hallway towards Emmett's room, flinching reflexively as some of the thunder boomed closely. Finally he arrived at Emmett's door and knocked. "Eve sent me up here to ask if you want to join us for a movie. May I come in?" The door creaked open as his closed hand hit the wood. Tony saw Emmett sitting in a lone chair with a few items from the open closet falling out onto the floor, as if the man had frantically searched for something in the mess. "Emmett!" Lightning illuminated the room, and Tony moved closer to Emmett's back, seeing that his hood was up. "Are you asleep?" He placed a hand upon Emmett's shoulder, and his head tilted to the side as if he were sleeping, incapable of consciously responding to Tony's question. The head, however, didn't stop tilting when the neck hit the opposite shoulder. A popping sound came forth, and the head fell to the ground, separated from the body. His eyes wide, Tony looked to see that where the neck should be attached to the head, a large threaded metal, like a large light bulb, was there instead. "Wah!" Lightning flashed, and the noise made Tony look at the window. Light silhouetted a figure outside, hanging upside down, peering inward at him. Tony screamed and ran out of the room until Mortimer, Lydia, and Eve intercepted him on the second flight of stairs.
"Tony, what's wrong?"
Eve asked in concern, her eyes almost as wide as his. "Lightning. I'm mad. Door opened. Face and window. Robot."
Whoa. Tony, slow down.
"I went to ask Emmett to join us. The door opened when I knocked and it looked like he might be asleep. I shook his shoulder lightly and his head popped off." Mortimer's jaw hardened. Mortimer started to ask if it was really his head when Tony interrupted. "Yes! It rolled around on the floor with something like a large light bulb thread at the base, and in his neck was a groove for it to fit in. Lightning flashed and I saw a face, something, looking in at me." Mortimer raced off past Tony, and the others tried to catch up to him. Tony called out to him, "Mortimer, where are you going?" Mortimer merely said that he knew something was off about Emmett. "Wait, I'll go with you," Tony said, pulling ahead of the two girls as Mortimer led them through the halls to the balcony above the garage. Shortly, the two began pulling themselves up onto the roof, Tony reaching the top first. He looked up and saw the manor's lightning rod and a figure standing next to it, an electric glow in one fist and an umbrella in the other. "Who are you?" Tony shouted out above the storm, and the figure turned. Emmett's eyes went wide, and then he looked up at the sky.
Ah, crap.
His profanity was silenced by a bolt of lightning striking him down where he had stood. The bright flash of light made Tony cover his eyes, and the umbrella Emmett had been holding flew past him, hitting Mortimer's square chest, knocking him off the roof. As he lowered his arms, Tony saw that the smoke covered the area that Emmett had been standing in, and something was impossibly solid within it. Emmett brushed a burnt remnant of his shirt off of his shoulders and let another strap fall off on its own. Some remained, but it wasn't really even worth attempting to salvage, being so unrecognizable. Pants were still intact, albeit they seemed to be comprised mostly of rubber or something similar. He picked up his umbrella and proceeded to push some of his excess current into it, making sure to keep it open. As the rain was falling down on it, he ensured that he remained entirely within it, pulling himself beside its protection.
Well, that was a waste of money. Next time I'll have to take the shirt off first.
Who are you? Tony asked in shock. Emmett did the same carefree hand gesture that he had done after moving the couch and did a slight bow, still making sure to stay dry.
Mr. Emmett Smith, remember? I'd shake your hand for finding out my secret, but I'm afraid the jolt might kill you. Don't worry, the residual charge will be absorbed shortly.
Emmett?
Yep. Oh, hey, didn't I see Morty up here too just a second ago?
Tony turned and leaned down, looking over the edge at the fallen vampire. "Oh my gosh! Mortimer, are you hurt?" Mortimer called out, saying that just his pride was hurt, and that luckily a shrubbery had caught his fall, giving him only minor cuts and bruises.
Me!
Emmett shouted out, and Tony snickered, then covered up his hand with his mouth. Mortimer looked up at them in puzzlement.
Never mind.
Emmett said, then stepped off the roof. His body sparkled with electricity and appeared to turn into a single arc as he zapped down to the ground, then reformed on it with the umbrella held open above him. Mortimer attempted to get out of the shrubbery, keeping his eyes ever on him, asking if it was the real him.
Yes, the thing in my room is an android shell. Look, I'll explain later. Let's get you out of there.
Emmett said, then touched the shrubbery to make sure he wasn't still sparking. Satisfied, he pulled Mortimer out. The rain let up and Emmett held out a shaking hand, slowly reaching out to touch a drop of water on his umbrella. Mortimer watched in confusion, and then Emmett let out a sigh of relief. Tony, meanwhile, was climbing down the third floor's vine-covered trellis, toward the second floor. He had needed Mortimer's help to reach the roof where the balcony above the garage was, and the vampire had been able to leap high enough to pull himself up, but without his help, the drop would be a tad too dangerous and foolish. Instead, climbing down the trellis, he had plenty to hold on to, though he had desperately wished that it hadn't made so many creaking and cracking sounds as he descended. Eve and Lydia were leaning out of his employer's balcony and watching him with worry.
Be careful, Tony.
Eve said, and Lydia chimed in.
Yeah, don't fall or anything.
Then Lydia looked down and saw the vampire and the latest tenant. She nudged her best friend.
Who's that?
He looks different, but I think it's Emmett.
Eve gasped as she saw the similarities, and Emmett looked up at them.
Hello, girls. We'll be right up in a bit.